Hello, so in the last video we looked at how to control this, to send MIDI to this, but in this video we're going to go in the opposite direction and look at how to take values from this controller, which doesn't make any sound, it's just a bunch of knobs and sliders, and use that to do things in Tidal. Okay. That's what we were doing last time. Let's have a look. Jump back to the tidalcycles.org, search again for MIDI, and jump into the controller input page. So there's something here about open sound control. We'll look at open sound control in some detail in a future video. But let's skim past that because we want to work with MIDI. And there's this block of code for switching on MIDI input from any device. So this whole bit of code is what we want, apart from this last line, which is just showing you how to switch off again. So let's select all that, copy and paste it into SuperClider. So this is what we were doing last time to send, oops, it's all gone red. To send, to make sure that we're receiving MIDI from, to send MIDI from Tidal to my keyboard, but we want to go in the other direction here. So I'd paste this stuff in here and just run it with Control Enter, probably Command Enter if you're on a Mac. And that's done that job. It just says a function, which is its way of telling us that it worked. There aren't any error messages. That's all great. So that's all we have to do, because this will automatically connect all of the available MIDI devices into Tidal by sending OSC, but we don't need to know about that. We just run it and it'll hopefully work fine. Okay, so let's say we had a simple kick pattern. It's not fast enough. There we go. And we wanted to control the wave shaping with, well, actually, let's use GJF with this controller. So normally we might automate it with something like a sine wave, but we want to do that by hand. So we can do something like CF, which is looking for a control value that's floating point, that is decimal number, and we want to give it a default value, so let's say 0.5 by default, and this is when we give the CC number. So we talked about CC numbers in the last video in terms of controlling a keyboard, but now it's the same kind of thing happening, but in reverse. So there's CC values coming from this controller into Tidal. So in this case, you can actually see the number of CC number that a thing sends by looking at the display. So you can see CC41 is going up and down while I move this slider. That bit of super code is taking care of converting from the MIDI range, which is from 0 up to 127, to what Tidal normally does, which is from 0 to 1. Okay, so that's that. So that was CC value 41, and that's what we put here, and run it. So then it's quite quiet because I left the slider all the way down. So here we go. If I move it up, DJF is nice actually to control in this way, because when it's in the middle, that means that it's not really affected, but if we move it up, it gets it cuts out all the low frequencies, and if we move it down, it cuts out all the upper frequencies. So DJF stands for DJ filter, because it's the kind of filter that you find on a mixer, DJ mixer, for mixing together tracks. So you might have one track which is leaving space for another by dropping out all the lower frequencies. Okay, so that's that. There's not a lot more than that to do, really. Instead of CF now, if you've got the latest version of Tidal, you can now just put in MIDI notation like this. That's another way of doing it. You can, what I quite like to do is have set up, so for different patterns I'm using different sliders so I can mix them together in interesting ways. I could do this for another. The disadvantage of using the MIDI notation is that there's no way of setting a default at the moment. So if I used a slider that I haven't actually moved yet, like 47, then it would just be silent because there's no value waiting for the pattern there. But as soon as I move that slider, it starts working again. If you use CF, you can set that default value so it works straight away. Okay, so that's about it. There might be some things that you're wondering, how do I do that with a controller? In that case, please ask some questions and I'll follow up with an answer or maybe another video. But yeah, thanks for watching. See